So hi there again everyone, this is again Alan and welcome back to my channel. Today here in the Philippines, we are now on our 6th week of the quarantine and I hope you guys are all well at home. I know you guys are noticing I'm gaining weight, I'm getting fatter, but that's fine because I can still paint. That's all that matters today. And for this episode, I'm gonna be reviewing another watercolor brand. This is very popular, at least here in the Philippines or in Asia. This is no other than the Pentel Watercolors Fine Grade. I got my set last year, 2019, at National Bookstore for 299.75 Philippine pesos or roughly $6 US. The box feels very standard. It's made out of paper and the cover looks very attractive and fancy, especially to kids because of these two kids here. And the cover reminds me of their old cover because they also use the same painting here. And back then their tubes were made out of aluminum, and that was 15 or 20 years ago when I was still in high school and college. And in front they provided here the logo or the brand name, Watercolors, 12 ml, 6 ml, and the color names are also provided here and a preview on how their tubes look like. And at the back you can find the same information. They provided the color names, and they also have here some features, creative solutions and uses, and it says here fade resistant, so they're assuming this is light fast, but unfortunately they were not able to provide any pigment information or light fastness information, so I don't know how reliable this is. And it also says here they dry evenly, will not crack or flake, so if you're considering this you can put them on half pans. And we have here some creative suggestions like pencil a small preliminary sketch to serve as a reference guide and paint the major masses to set the color scheme. So every time I see some suggestions or tips, it gives me a hint that the paint is meant for students or for school use. So here the uses are for watercolor paintings, of course, illustrations, architectural renderings, industrial designs, and portraits. So it says here it conforms to ISO 8123. So I believe this is safe for kids. And it says here it's made in Taiwan under Pentel Singapore PTE Limited, so which is rich. But according to their website, Pentel is a Japanese manufacturer, and according also to their website, their watercolors have two lines. They have this line, the fine, and they also have a higher one, which is the extra fine. And once I get my extra fine set, I'm gonna be comparing their two lines. So now let's take a look at the tubes. So as you can see, this is very new. I have not opened it. So this is how it looks like. It looks so satisfyingly beautiful. It looks so good. Okay, so let's open it. So these are the Pentel fine tubes. Let's take a look at a single tube. So obviously this is made out of plastic. It's soft, and let's see if it, okay, so it already has a hole, so it's ready to squeeze. And this is the arrangement of colors, but I am rearranging them based on my preference. And for our swatch sheet and sample painting, as usual, I'm gonna be using Arches 185 cold press cotton paper. So you can see there's binder separation, so I think we have to release first. Okay, not that much, so you can put one here, right? So there is binder separation here. So you need to extract that first before dotting them down. So now let's start swatching. First is white, so this is expected to be opaque. Next we have lemon yellow, and usually this is also more on the opaque side, and this lemon yellow is very vibrant. Next we have vermilion, and surprisingly this is also very vibrant, but unlike the other vermilions that we have tried, this is semi-opaque. But let's see if this changes once it dries. Now let's have red. This is very intense as well, but you can also see that it's not transparent. Now let's have purple. This is also very vibrant. Next we have cobalt blue. Although I think this is not a real cobalt pigment, but it's also very vibrant and saturated, so it's fine. Next we have Prussian blue. For those who know me, they know that I'm not a fan of this color because of its being unpredictable when it comes to lightfastness. Because some pigment manufacturers claim that they're very light fast. Some tests show that they regain their colors under the dark. So I don't want to be as much as possible dealing with such inconsistencies. Next we have viridian, and I assume this is also not a real viridian pigment. I think this is phthalo green because of its behavior, and it's not granulating. Next we have yellow green, and this is more on the opaque side. Next we have yellow ochre, and this is expected to be opaque. Next we have brown. Wow, this is very opaque. This looks like burnt sienna, but more on the opaque side of burnt sienna. And lastly we have black. This looks like an ivory black. So now our swatch sheet is dry. We can now take a closer look, and as you can see, most of the colors are more on the opaque side, and these are white, lemon yellow, vermilion, viridian, yellow green, yellow ochre, and brown. The colors are very vibrant, surprisingly, and I'm happy about that. With regards to the color selection, they don't have a warm blue or ultramarine, but I'm okay with the cobalt blue because it's in the middle. I think this is a combination of phthalo blue and ultramarine, so this can work for me. So now let's proceed to the sample painting. Guys, to save time, I'll be speeding up most of the demo part. So if you have any questions, just comment it below and I'll be answering you as soon as I can. So let's start. So now the first layer is done. We can now proceed to the mountains and some of the buildings. And for that, I'm combining viridian and purple. So now, while waiting for the mountain part to dry before we paint our buildings here, let's proceed to the boat here. And of course, we have to put shadow, but since the shadow is cast over brown sand, let's make our shadow also more on the blushing side, like that. And let's assume that the sun is coming from this side, so we have the shadow on this side. Also, let's add some gradation to our sand. And while waiting for these two boats to dry before we put some more details, let's do the other boats from this side. So now I think the mountain part is dry. We can now put our buildings there. And always remember, as the subject goes farther, the lesser the details, the lighter the color also. So now I'm using white for some highlights. So I think we're done. I think we can stop from here and just wait for our sample painting to dry. So now our sample painting is finally dry, and here's a closer look. So now our swatch sheet and sample painting is dry. Overall, I'm happy with the performance of Pentel Watercolors. I believe they've improved a lot as compared to the aluminum tubes that I've had back in college. I think they're more vibrant now. I think the colors are more intense, and I think they're more workable now. And despite the fact that most of the colors are more on the opaque side, I was able to achieve translucence and transparency in this painting, this sample painting that I did. And for that, I am very happy. I think the issue here is my usual issue to small palettes, the absence of ultramarine blue, but I think I was able to achieve what I wanted here, although I'd still really prefer to have that color. Since most colors are more on the opaque side, I am afraid that if you mix multiple pigments or colors, there's a tendency to make muddy mixes. So as much as possible, limit your mixes to 2 or 3 colors, especially those which are considered opaque or semi-opaque in these colors. So now we are down to our favorite part, the comparison. And to make this more organized, I have grouped the comparisons into 3 parts. The first part are the paints that are less performing as compared to Pentel. The second part are the colors or the paints that are on par with Pentel. And the last are the group of paints that are performing better than the Pentel Watercolors. So for the first group, our first brand is the Symbolion. I think it's obvious here that Pentel is more vibrant and are less opaque. Next is the Best Buy Watercolors. I think you can really see the difference. Next is the Faber Castell Solid Watercolors. I think it's obvious also that the Pentel Watercolors flow more easily and more, evenly as compared to the Faber Castell. And last here is Prang Watercolors. I know you are surprised here, but I think it is very obvious that the Pentel Watercolors are more vibrant and more saturated. And by the way, none of these 4 brands provided the lightfastness rating or pigment information just like Pentel, so I think they're on the same level on that issue. But as for the visual performance, I think the Pentel Watercolors is better. Now for our second group are the paints that are, I think, performing on the same level or very comparable to the Pentel Watercolors. First is Sakura Pocket Filled Sketchbox. Intensity wise, I think they're both intense, but if I still need to choose between these two, I think I'll go for Pentel Watercolors because the colors are more even and I think it's more consistent as compared to Sakura Koi, which is, yes, I think it's intense, but I really hate the movement here, and it's actually just not for me, though I love the ultramarine here. The ultramarine moved well as compared to the Crimson Lake, to the cerulean blue. You can watch my separate video for this if you want, more details. Next we have Pebeo Studio Watercolors. I think they're very much comparable, but if I need to choose between these two, I'll choose Pentel for this specific set because I really was very disappointed with these 3 blues here that look the same. So maybe if I had tried an 18 color set, I think I'll be more satisfied. Who knows? But you can see the output is very comparable. So I think they're still on the same level. Next is Windsor Newton China. This is considered, I think, higher grade than this because they provided pigment information, but performance wise I think it's just the same. So yeah, visually they're very much comparable, experience is very much the same, but I think the edge of Windsor and Newton China is they provided pigment information. So I think Windsor Newton China has the edge. So now for our last group, the sets that played better as compared to Pentel. First we have Superior Watercolors. Visually they're very intense, but the edge goes to Superior because they're more consistent and they're more vibrant. Next we have Windsor Newton Cotman. Generally, Windsor Newton Cotman are more intense, they're more transparent, and they provided pigment information. Next we have Lucas Aquarelle 1862. I think when it comes to vibrance, they're very comparable, but the edge of Lucas is that they provided pigment information and they consider themselves artist grade. Next we have Sonnet Watercolors. I think visually the edge goes to Sonnet, and another point is for the pigment codes that they provided. Next we have Kokuyo Camlin. They did not provide pigment information just like Pentel, but visually you can see that the Kokuyo Camlin watercolors are more intense, they're more deep, the colors are very bold in my words, and I really love the French ultramarine of Camlin, and that makes me biased for this set. But yeah, you can see visually the colors are more exciting under Kokuyo. Next we have Holbein Artists Watercolors. Generally the colors are more intense and they're more transparent, and they also provided pigment information, so that's a given. Same thing with Mission Gold, and also with Viarco, Art Graph Taylor Shape, Paul Rubens. They all provided pigment information, so automatically the point goes to them, but that's just me. So same with Van Gogh. Same level of saturation and intensity but with pigment information. Rembrandt luxury watercolors. They have the same intensity of vibrance, but aside from the color choice, Rembrandt are more transparent. Surprisingly, even the cadmium colors are more on the transparent side. And lastly, of course, are Daniel Smith extra fine watercolors on stick, this time on stick. And of course, this is still my basis of quality. They are more intense, they are more transparent, they're more vibrant, and the character of the colors is very much felt in each color. And of course, they provided the pigment information. And I forgot, we also have White Nights by St. Petersburg, which are generally more intense and more transparent. Of course, they have pigment information. So that wraps up our comparison. So now, if you're gonna ask me, would I recommend the Pentel Watercolors fine? My answer is a definite yes. For the price of 300 Philippine pesos or roughly $6 with this intensity, with this workability, and with this quality, I think it's not a bad set at all. The colors are vibrant, they're very workable, and though some of them are opaque, I was able to achieve translucence and transparency in my output, so it's okay with me. The fact that they don't have ultramarine, at first I was disappointed, but with the presence of Cobalt Blue, I was able to achieve a warm blue here by mixing some colors, and for that I'm happy because Cobalt Blue can work as a mid blue. So that's fine with me. If there's one major complaint I can give, that is the lack of a more reliable lightfastness basis, because they did not provide any ratings or even the pigment information. I know they're meant for student use, though they call this fine, and because they have an extra fine line, but still I think it won't hurt if they provided a more reliable lightfastness information rating or pigment information. So that's my point. So if you have any other questions, suggestions, comments, or if you have used the extra fine line of Pentel, you can comment it below about your experiences, if they provided light fastness rating or pigment information, because I am gonna be trying it out soon. And once the extra fine set arrives, I will be reviewing it and comparing it with the Pentel Watercolors. So again, see you next week. Again, thank you for watching. Stay safe and healthy at home.